The first thing she said when she walked in was, "Why did you clean the mirror?" I didn't know how to respond. Because I didn't. I'd been sitting at the edge of the bed for nearly 2 hours, staring at my hands, thinking about the dream I had the night before. It wasn't a nightmare exactly, but I woke up gasping. In it, I was drowning in a bathtub full of photographs. Every time I reached for one, it dissolved into ink and static. Anyway, the mirror. The hallway mirror, the one across from our bedroom, had been foggy for weeks. Something about the cleaner she bought always left a haze. But today it was spotless, wiped down, gleaming. She said she thought it was me. I knew it wasn't. But someone had cleaned it. I didn't ask her about it right away. I wanted to. But I was still playing over what I found on the floor that morning. A red thread. Thin, short, maybe 2 inches. Almost like it came from a hoodie string. The thing is, we don't own anything red. Not a single piece of red clothing in the whole house. I checked. Twice. That was the first thread. There would be others. At 3:47 p.m., she took a call in the garage. She never takes calls in the garage. I heard her laugh. That laugh. You know the one. The "you're not my husband" laugh. Soft. Smooth. Careful not to echo too loudly through drywall. She didn't see me standing behind the pantry door. "Next week works. But only if he believes I'm at the dentist again." "You're awful." "Stop." I leaned my head against the shelves. Knocked over a can of black beans. It rolled. Loudly. Silence. Her voice changed when she came back in. Cheerful. Breezy. "Kurt, do we still have garlic powder?" "Garlic powder." I nodded. Said nothing. My mouth was so dry I thought my tongue would crack. That night, she brought me dessert. Chocolate lava cake. Store-bought, but still. She hasn't done that in years. She said she was sorry for being snappy lately. Said she wanted to reconnect. She leaned in to kiss me. Like it meant something. And that's when I said it. Quiet. Low. Like I was reading someone else's script. "I'd kiss you, but I don't want to taste your boyfriend." She didn't flinch. She froze. Like her brain had stopped buffering. Eyes still open. Fork halfway to her mouth. Not a sound. And then, with a smile that didn't belong to her, she whispered, "So you finally figured it out." No tears. No panic. No fake denial. Just a calm confession. Like it was a relief. That's when she stood up, walked to the hallway mirror, and with her bare hand, smeared a message into the clean glass. I couldn't see what it said from where I was. But now I wish I never read it. I didn't move right away. Something about the way she stood there, fingers pressed into the glass, just watching her own reflection, made it feel like I wasn't supposed to. Like if I made a sound, something would snap. The hallway light flickered. I thought it was a trick of my eyes, but then it did it again, once, then twice, like a slow blink. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I heard my own pulse in my ears. She still hadn't said anything. Just calmly writing something into the steamless surface with the tip of her index finger, like it had been rehearsed. When she finally stepped aside, I saw it. 7 words. "Don't forget what you agreed to, Curtis." My stomach dropped. My name. In her handwriting. On a mirror I hadn't touched. A sentence I'd never heard before, but that made my skin crawl as if I had. I stood up slowly, heart pounding like it was echoing off the walls. "What is this?" I asked, already hating how weak my voice sounded. She didn't answer. She just smiled. Not the kind you give someone you love, but the kind people wear in crime documentaries. The ones that make you feel colder the longer you look at them. "I didn't write that," she said. "But I just watched you." "I didn't write it," she repeated. "I just remembered it." I didn't know what that meant, but every part of me wanted to leave that hallway. To walk backward into the kitchen, pour a glass of water, and pretend none of this happened. Maybe I'd imagined it all. The phone call, the red thread, the mirror message, even the strange pause after I mentioned the boyfriend she swore didn't exist. But I didn't move. Because she wasn't done. "You're slipping," she said softly, as she reached into the coat closet and pulled out a small black notebook. Leather-bound. Worn at the edges. I didn't recognize it. But it had my handwriting all over the cover. She handed it to me, almost too gently. "Page 38, she said. "That's where it started. Maybe that'll help." I opened the book with shaking fingers. Inside were hundreds of lines, dense, scribbled, sometimes slanted across the margins, as if written during panic attacks or dreams I couldn't wake up from. Some lines were repeated over and over, like I was trying to convince myself of something, or forget something else. Page 38 was dog-eared. And when I turned to it, I swear I felt the temperature drop. It read, "I agree to forget. I agree to live as if I do not know. I agree to protect her until it is over." Dated. Signed by me. Same signature I've used on every check, lease, and Valentine's Day card. I looked up. Mallory, if that's even still her name, was just standing there, waiting. No expression, no apology, just this silence. Like she was watching me wake up in real time. I dropped the notebook. It hit the tile with a heavy slap, and for a moment I thought I might throw up. "You wrote that 5 months ago," she said calmly. "You begged me to help you forget. And I did, until you started remembering again." I backed into the wall. "What are you talking about? Remembering what?" She sighed, and then she leaned in, inches from my face, and whispered something I wish I could erase from my skull. "He's not my boyfriend, Curtis. He's yours." I didn't sleep that night. I don't even think I blinked. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing in front of that mirror, the red letters fading away, that strange calm in her voice when she said it. "He's not my boyfriend, Curtis. He's yours." The words kept looping in my head until they stopped sounding like English. Around 5 a.m., I got up and wandered through the house like it wasn't mine. The air felt thicker, heavier, like every shadow was holding its breath. I stopped at the dining table, where the notebook still lay open on the floor. The leather cover had curled at the corners, and my signature, my actual, unshakable signature, stared back at me from page 38. I touched it just to make sure it was real. The ink didn't smudge. I tried to remember. Anything. Everything. I thought about where I was 5 months ago, what I was doing, who I was talking to, but it was all blurry. Like someone had gone through my brain with a damp sponge. Mallory was asleep on the couch, curled up under a blanket, breathing softly, like nothing had happened. I wanted to wake her, shake her, make her explain what she meant, but part of me was scared she'd actually tell me. Because what if she wasn't lying? What if there really was something I'd forgotten, something I wasn't supposed to remember? By sunrise, I'd made up my mind. I had to find out what was on the other pages. Most of it was nonsense at first, disjointed ramblings, phrases like, "Don't answer the calls," "Avoid mirrors after dusk," and "He knows when you're awake." Some were written in pen, some in pencil, a few even carved into the page with what looked like a knife tip. But then, halfway through the book, I found a photo tucked between the pages. It was of me, standing next to a man I didn't recognize. We were outside somewhere, maybe a park, maybe someone's yard. Both of us were smiling, holding up what looked like a small wooden box with strange markings burned into it. But here's the thing, my hand wasn't holding the box. It was on the man's shoulder. And his face looked almost like mine. Not identical, but close enough to make my skin crawl. Same jawline, same eyes, like a brother I'd never met, or a reflection caught at the wrong angle. The back of the photo had a date, May 14th, 5 months ago, the same month as the agreement. That's when Mallory stirred. I slid the photo back into the notebook and shut it just as she opened her eyes. She didn't look surprised to see me standing there, just tired, almost sad. "You looked at it, didn't you?" she said. I didn't answer. I just stared at her, gripping the book like it might bite me. "I told you not to," she whispered. "Once you start remembering, he starts coming back." Her tone wasn't angry, it was terrified. Like she was warning me, not accusing me. "Who is he?" I asked. Mallory hesitated. Then she looked past me, toward the hallway mirror. The same one that had the message written on it yesterday. I turned to look too, and there, just faintly, through the reflection of the morning light, I saw something behind us. A shadow. A tall figure standing in the corner of the living room, too still to be human. When I spun around, the corner was empty. But in the mirror, he was still there. And he was smiling. There are things your brain does when it sees something it shouldn't. It tries to flatten it, rationalize it, file it away under trick of the light, or "I'm just tired." But mirrors don't lie, not good ones. And that morning, as I stood frozen in the hallway with Mallory silently trembling behind me, I watched a man, tall, wide-shouldered, grinning like he knew every secret I'd ever buried, vanish from the mirror as cleanly as if someone had pressed delete. I didn't turn around right away. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too hard. There was nothing behind me but drywall and an empty corner. But in the mirror, just a second ago, that corner had teeth. "Curtis," Mallory said, almost too softly to hear, "we're running out of time." I finally faced her. Her eyes were red. Not from crying, from exhaustion, like she hadn't really slept in weeks. Her voice had changed too, no longer playing housewife. No fake sweetness, just cold, quiet dread. I didn't recognize this version of her, and I wasn't sure if that made her more dangerous or more trustworthy. She motioned for me to follow her upstairs. I hesitated. We agreed you'd forget, she said. But you also made me promise that if the forgetting failed, I had to show you everything. I followed her, against every instinct in my body. The kind of instinct that screams this is the part in the story where people go missing. The stairs creaked under my bare feet, and every step felt like a question I couldn't answer. At the end of the hallway, past the linen closet and the guest room, was a door I hadn't noticed in years. It looked like part of the wall, no knob, no hinges, but she pressed her palm against it, and it clicked open like it had been waiting for her. For us. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading downward, a staircase that should not have existed. Our house didn't have a basement. We lived on a slab foundation. That was something I remembered with absolute clarity. But there it was. Concrete. Cold. Real. She took the first step. I followed. The air grew colder the further we descended. The lights flickered on their own, dim bulbs encased in rusted cages, buzzing faintly, like insects trapped behind glass. At the bottom was a room I had never seen before, but the moment I stepped into it, I felt this sickening familiarity, like I'd had dreams in here. Nightmares, maybe. The floor was tiled with black and white squares. There was a steel table in the middle of the room, a projector mounted to the ceiling, and 3 chairs facing a wall that looked more like a screen. Mallory pointed to the far corner. There sat another notebook. Older, thicker, chained to the wall, like someone was afraid it would leave. I didn't speak. I just walked over and opened it. And what I saw inside nearly made my knees give out. Photographs. Dozens of them. Of me. But not me now, not exactly. Me in other clothes. Me in other places. Me with Mallory, yes, but also me alone. Me standing next to that same man from the other photo. Me in front of the same strange mirror, writing words I didn't remember learning. In one, I was holding a box full of watches. Every single one stopped at 319. In another, I was shaking hands with someone whose face had been scratched out. Every image was dated, and none of the dates made sense. Some were years before I met Mallory. One was from a date 2 months after today. Another was dated the exact same day Benny, our dog, had died. Except in the photo, Benny was alive and sitting beside me, tongue out, happy as ever. Curtis, she said, her voice barely steady. You didn't just ask to forget. She walked to the projector, pulled a chain, and the machine flickered to life with a low whir. You asked me to help you hide. From who? She didn't answer that. Instead, she played the first reel. And there, on the wall, was a video of me, sitting in this same room, just like now. I looked thinner, eyes wild, talking to someone off camera. I don't care what it takes, the version of me on the tape said. Wipe it, burn it, bury it. Just make sure he never finds me again. Then I looked directly into the camera, not past it, into it. And if I come back here, if I remember, tell me this. Don't trust the man in the mirror. He's not watching. He's waiting. After watching that tape, I didn't say a word for what must have been 10 full minutes. Mallory just stood near the far wall, her arms crossed like she was holding herself together, like she was scared of me, or maybe scared for me. But all I could do was stare at that final frame frozen on the wall. My own face, pale and panicked, staring back at me like it knew something I still didn't. The words rang in my ears like a warning I couldn't ignore. Don't trust the man in the mirror. He's not watching. He's waiting. I don't know how to describe what happened next without sounding like I've lost my grip on reality. Maybe I have. But as I stood there, heart racing, brain fogging, I swear to you, the walls started to breathe. No, not literally, not in some sci-fi special effects way. But the air shifted, swelled, pulled. The room got smaller. I could feel it. The light bulbs overhead buzzed louder, like they were angry. I turned to ask Mallory what the hell this room was, what she had done to me. But the second I opened my mouth, I felt it, a pressure behind my eyes. Like something had been living there, coiled, waiting for a trigger. And that trigger was remembering. I dropped to my knees. The notebook hit the floor with a metallic thud from its chain. My head was on fire. Memories, or maybe dreams, came crashing through my skull all at once. Flash images. Me in a hotel room. Me shaking hands with a man who looked exactly like me. Me carving symbols into a floor made of black stone. Mallory screaming. Static. A voice whispering over and over. There must always be one who remembers. There must always be one who forgets. Mallory rushed over and grabbed my face with both hands. She was crying now. Real tears. Curtis, look at me, she said. You're not supposed to remember everything. You begged me to keep the veil in place. You said he'd use it against you. You said. I cut her off. What is this place? She swallowed hard, then looked toward a panel behind the projector I hadn't noticed before. You called it the forgetting room. You built it before the last time. You said it had to be sealed if anything started to leak through. Leak through what? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to the panel and pulled it open. Behind it was a wall of taped recordings, hundreds of them, each labeled with dates, symbols, and phrases like "Don't view twice," "Mirror event, failed," and one that simply read, "The switch." Mallory ran her fingers across the tapes like she was counting rosary beads. You've done this 12 times, she whispered. Each time you made me promise to help you forget again. But this time was supposed to be permanent. This time you said if you remembered anything, he'd start crossing over again. I backed up. Crossing from where? She looked up at me with hollow eyes and said something I'll never forget, no matter how many more notebooks I fill or how many more mirrors I avoid. Curtis, you're not the first version of yourself. And he's not the only one watching. I couldn't breathe. My head was spinning again, but I forced myself to stay grounded. I needed answers. I needed logic. But logic had long since left this house. Mallory opened another cabinet, this one deeper, locked with a keypad. She hesitated, then punched in a code without looking, like it had been muscle memory. The door creaked open to reveal a steel case, inside which was something that turned my blood to ice. A mirror. Small, square, framed in wood carved with strange, repeating lines, like a pattern, but one my eyes didn't want to follow. It pulsed almost, and in it, I saw myself blink before I actually blinked. I stumbled back. What the hell is that? That, Mallory said, barely audible now, is the original. The first mirror. The one you brought back. You said it came from him, and that it's how he finds you. Every time. The reflection inside it smiled. I didn't. I refused to look at the mirror again. I didn't care if it pulsed or sang or levitated right there in front of me. I could feel its weight in the room like a heartbeat that didn't belong to either of us. Mallory closed the cabinet slowly, locking the strange object away, and for a moment, neither of us moved. The only sound was the projector behind us still humming softly, casting light on a wall now filled with static. The tape had finished, but something in the air felt unfinished. I sat down, finally, on one of the metal chairs beside the projector table. My hands were shaking. Not from fear anymore, from confusion. This wasn't just paranoia. This wasn't just a marriage crumbling under secrets. This had layers I didn't have the tools to understand. Mallory sat across from me, elbows on her knees, head in her hands. Do you want the rest of it? She asked quietly. Or do you want me to wipe it again? I didn't answer right away. I wanted to say yes, wipe it. Erase all of this. Go back to not knowing that there's a room under our house that doesn't physically exist, a mirror that reacts before I do, a notebook full of timelines that don't line up. But somewhere inside me, and I can't explain this part, I knew I'd asked that same question before. And each time I chose forgetting, he got stronger, not weaker. So this time I said, show me everything. She didn't nod. She didn't even blink. She just stood up and went to the corner, opened yet another drawer. How many compartments did this room have? And took out something wrapped in cloth. Black linen, tied tightly. She sat it down between us like it was sacred. Or dangerous. Maybe both. This was yours, she said. You made me promise never to open it unless you remembered on your own. And even then, only if you asked for it. I untied the cloth slowly, my fingers numb. Inside was a wooden carving, no bigger than a book, covered in deep, spiraling grooves like something had burrowed through it. The wood was dark, not painted, but naturally blackened, like it had been burned from the inside out. There were symbols on it. Foreign, not decorative. They felt old, hungrier than language. I picked it up and immediately wished I hadn't. A low hum started, not from the box, from inside my teeth. That was the only way I can explain it. Like my whole body had been tuned to a frequency I didn't know existed. And then, my voice cracked. What is this? Mallory didn't answer at first. She was watching me closely, studying my reaction like it mattered. Finally, she said, it's the lock. The one you carved. To hold the part of you that remembered everything. I stared at her. You're saying I split myself? She nodded. Voluntarily. After the second mirror event. You said it was the only way. You sealed the memories inside an object that only you could trigger. Only if your conscious mind was ready. And if it wasn't? She looked down. Then he would find you before you could prepare. Something inside the box shifted. Not visibly, but I could feel it, like whatever had been caged in there just moved a little closer to the edge. And then I remembered something. Something small. Ordinary. The kind of detail that shouldn't have meant anything. A smell. Walnut oil. The same scent that used to linger on my grandfather's carving tools. I remembered him teaching me how to etch patterns into wood during long, hot summers in Kansas. I was maybe 12 or 13. And in that moment, I saw the truth so clearly it made my head spin. I carved this. I made this box. Not last year. Not 5 years ago. But decades ago. Before I met Mallory. Before I moved states. Before I even knew what forgetting meant. That's when I asked the real question. Who was I before I became me? Mallory looked like she'd been waiting for that question for a very long time. You were the first, she said. The original. Before the copies. Before the fail-safes. Before him. You're the one who opened the mirror the first time. And then she leaned in, her face pale, her voice shaking. Curtis, you're not running from him. You are him. You just haven't remembered why. I didn't speak for a long time. I couldn't. I just stared at the blackened box sitting on the table between us, suddenly aware of how alive it felt. Not metaphorically, not in the this object holds meaning way. I mean it felt alive. Like something inside it was breathing. Not fast. Not panicked. But slow. Patient. Like it had been asleep for a long time, and now it was just starting to wake up. And Mallory had said it so plainly. You're not running from him. You are him. But what the hell did that mean? I looked up at her. That doesn't make sense. If I'm him, then who's been chasing me? Who's been showing up in the mirror? The man with my face. That's not him, she said, cutting me off, her voice low. That's a piece. A ripple. A consequence. You started this, Curtis. When you first looked into the original mirror, you didn't just see something. You brought something back. And when you tried to lock it away, you broke yourself into two halves. The one who remembers and the one who forgets. I stood up. Too fast. My chair screeched across the tile. The air felt too thin. Why wouldn't you tell me any of this before? Because you begged me not to, she said, her voice cracking now. You said if the halves merged before the anchor was sealed, the mirror would no longer be a window. It would become a door. I was pacing now, trying to keep my thoughts straight, but everything in my brain was bending sideways. So, the other version of me, the one in the videos, the one who carved this box, he knew everything? Mallory nodded. And the one standing here now, me. I'm the idiot that gets reset every time the memory becomes too much. Her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, You're not the idiot. You're the only version that still feels guilt. Those words shattered something in me. Not because they were cruel, because they felt true. I looked down at the box again. There were no hinges. No visible lock. But I knew how to open it. Not because she told me. Not because it had a trick mechanism. Because I built it. My hands moved without thinking. I pressed a thumb into one of the carved spirals, traced a line backward with my pinky, then tapped the center 3 times. Click. The top cracked open with a soft hiss, like air escaping from a long-sealed tomb. Inside was a tooth. A human molar, stained yellow-brown, cracked at the root. It sat atop a folded piece of paper and a strip of old leather. The smell hit me immediately. Not rot, not death, but time. Like something that had been buried so long the earth gave up trying to reclaim it. I picked up the paper with shaking hands. It was a single sentence, written in my handwriting. If you're reading this, it's already too late. You let us overlap. Us. Not you. Us. I looked up at Mallory. What does this mean? But she wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking through me. Her face pale, her mouth slightly open, like she couldn't speak. Then her hand slowly raised and pointed toward the reflection behind me. A surface I hadn't even realized I was standing in front of. The steel projector lens. It reflected just enough to show my outline. Only, the reflection wasn't mine. It was me. Same shape. Same height, but the head was tilted at a wrong, unnatural angle. The smile too wide. The eyes hollow, like burned-out lanterns. And it was still. No breathing. No blinking. I turned around, fast, but the room was empty. When I looked back at the reflection, it waved. Mallory screamed. And all the lights went out. The darkness wasn't empty. As soon as the lights went out, the air changed. Heavy, humid, thick with something I couldn't name. Not smoke. Not mist. More like memory itself had taken physical form and was pushing its way into the room. Mallory was still screaming somewhere behind me, but her voice sounded underwater, muffled by layers of something ancient and forgotten. I couldn't see my own hands, but I could feel him. He was close now, the other me. The mirror version. The half I'd buried, boxed, sealed in rituals and notebooks and strange agreements. I thought I had been running from him all this time. But in the dark, in that sealed room beneath the house that shouldn't exist, I finally understood. He had never chased me. He'd just been waiting for me to remember. Then, in that pitch-black silence, I heard the sound. Breathing. Not mine. Not Mallory's. His. Slow. Rhythmic. Inches from my ear. I turned. I don't know how. I couldn't see, but I felt my body rotate toward the presence. I could sense him clearly now, like we were sharing the same lungs, the same thoughts. And then, for the first time since this nightmare began, I spoke out loud to him. You don't need to do this anymore. The breathing stopped. I get it now. I remember. You're not my enemy. You're me. You're the version I exiled. The one who saw everything, felt everything, and couldn't carry it alone. I split us in two to survive, but that didn't heal anything, did it? Still nothing. But I could feel the room listening. The walls had stopped breathing. Even the mirror behind me had gone still. I placed my hand on the floor, grounding myself. I don't want to forget anymore, I said softly. Not this. Not you. Whatever comes next, we face it together. And just like that, he stepped back. I didn't see it, but I felt the distance open. A shift in pressure, like two magnets releasing their grip. Then a faint shimmer lit the center of the room, the box. Still open. The strange carved object inside glowing gently now, like the final ember in a long-dead fire. Mallory's voice broke the silence. Curtis, she whispered, her voice shaky but calm. You closed the loop. And she was right. I could feel it. Like a thread had been tied, a knot secured. For the first time in what felt like lifetimes, the house was still. The room no longer pulsed with secrets. The mirrors, I knew, without checking, were empty again. Reflective. Ordinary. I reached down, lifted the old tooth from the box, and gently dropped it into my palm. It turned to dust. Just like that. No final scare. No final twist. Just peace. We emerged from the basement as the sun was rising. The door to the hidden room closed behind us, sealing not just wood and walls, but a part of history that had finally been acknowledged, accepted, and let go. Mallory stood next to me in the hallway, her hand brushing mine. She didn't say much. She didn't have to. I remember everything now, I said. She nodded. Then we can finally live again. And we did. That morning, we threw out the old notebooks. Every one of them. We took down every mirror in the house and replaced them with windows. We opened the curtains. Let the light pour in. Later that week, we got Benny's name engraved properly on a stone and planted lavender around the tree where we buried him. He deserved that. There are still days I wake up and feel the old shadow, like a bruise inside my memory. But I don't fear it anymore. Because I know who I am now. Whole, unbroken, and awake. And the man in the mirror? He's resting now. Because finally, so am I.